All right, well, thank you everybody for coming to our October 14th school board meeting. Tonight we have the middle school principal and assistant principal here to do a PBIS presentation. Chantel?
Well, thank you so much for having us. And we'll just sit down. We just wanted to share with you pretty much what our belief system is at the middle school and just how we focus on PBIS, what it is, as well as SEL, because we have a lot of acronyms, so we'll kind of explain to you what it is as well as what we do a little bit at the middle school. We'll be discussing MTSS, Tier 1, 2, and 3, our school-wide matrix, along with the 3 R's. So what is PBIS? It stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. It's pretty much just a system that we look at, a belief system on how we work with our students. SEL is Social Emotional Learning, and the 3 R's, many of you are probably familiar with, is the respect, responsibility, and relationship, and that's our motto at the middle school and what we truly believe in. We added the positive relationships a few years ago just because we would like to focus with the students on the positive relationships, because you can have the negative relationships too, so we throw in the positive relationship part, just how we treat one another. And one of the messages we send to our students a lot of the times is just be around people who like you for you, and so really focusing on that positive.
So PBIS, as you guys now know, the acronym Positive Behavior Intervention System, is an approach to our school to teach proactively the behaviors that we are seeking at the school. Instead of a reactive fashion, we want to teach students the correct way to behave in the hallway, in the lunchroom, in the classroom, and that involves our matrix and also our 3 R's minute, where we have students practicing these behaviors in the classroom so that we don't expect them to know that. We are going to teach them those behaviors and then hold them accountable to those high standards. And so with PBIS, what we get is a common language. And so with that common language, we have the same expectations for all students. And that allows us to really follow through with each individual student, and then also gives our teachers the advantage to teaching kids each year they have the same language. And that includes like the 3 R's are common vision and values, and then a common experience for all of our students.
And so just a little bit of history, it's interesting. So back in 2009, 2010, I presented to the school board with a committee just to talk about what PBIS is and where we're at. So we've been doing this really in our school for about since 2009, so quite a while, almost 10 years. And that's pretty exciting. We have shifted and we've changed in what we call is more of a hybrid model on how we practice PBIS. And we've been really working on this. We implemented it with the 3 R's, with our motto, and then we've continually built over the years. What it involves is not only teaching the behaviors, but also having that, as Ted said, a common language and expectations. We talk a lot about our level 1s and our level 2s when we look at behaviors and what is handled in the classroom versus what's handled outside the classroom. And we have a lot of conversations about that regarding the expectations for our students, as well as for our staff. Whenever we talk with the students, we say with the matrix, and we'll show you what our matrix is, our school-wide matrix. We expect that not only for the students, but we also expect it for ourselves. The PBIS committee, we meet monthly, and we talk about just different things that we're looking at for our school, areas in the data that we're sharing with attendance, as well as behaviors, how students are doing, and maybe even pockets of places that we need to be visible, like in the halls sometimes, in the pod areas at times. And we also have read a book. It's called Fostering Resilient Learners, and it's really focusing on how to work with students, trauma-based, but how can we provide strategies and tools for students in our classroom setting. Our staff read the book this summer, and we've been touching on it throughout the school year. We have a staff meeting tomorrow morning, and we're going to take a couple chapters. The PBIS committee will be sharing out with the full staff, just strategies and tools again. When we talk about MTSS, It really truly is a multi-tiered system of support, and I'm sure you've seen the triangle. We talk a lot about how are we going to meet the needs of all students, and really our first and foremost is all students, the 100%, the Tier 1. What are we doing to provide the information to all students? And then when we look at the Tier 2, it's more of a pocket of students that need additional assistance, and then into a Tier 3 process where they even need more intensive. So we really start with the base, the Tier 1 process.
And so our PBIS committee is, as you can see on the screen, is a wide range of our staff, from grade level teachers to our music and FIED, our special education teachers, and then our additional members, our school counselor, our social worker, and our behavior interventionists are key components to making the PBIS system work correctly.
And then we look at, as I explained before, the MTSS, kind of the tier area. So you'll see up here, the Tier 1 really focuses on our 3 R's. We have that on Mondays, and we'll discuss a little bit more about that. It really provides all students that Tier 1 support, and talking about the social emotional learning. Tier 2 is, again, that pocket of students that need a little more support, and that is provided through our school counselor and our school social worker. And Tier 3 is more intensive. They meet on more of a regular basis, specific students, and those individuals work with the school social worker or our behavior interventionist in our school.
And so you've probably heard a lot about SEL and social emotional learning, as our students are coming to school with a lot more baggage and a lot more things on their mind. And so part of the PBIS team is also to incorporate the teaching of how to manage our emotions, how to manage our positive mindset, and how to show empathy for others. And so during advisories on Mondays, that's our focus. They have lessons for each grade level, so grade level specific. They're not the same because it's more grade level, so 6th graders have a different lesson than an 8th grader would when it comes to their emotional learning and how to control themselves when they're having a bad day, or if they're super excited, how do we still keep them in the classroom and focused. And those happen during, again, our Monday advisory class periods.
And so what do we do for Tier 1? We mentioned, excuse me, the school-wide matrix, and that is something that we cover the beginning, the middle, and sometimes as needed at the end of the year. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, I can make it bigger.
And so that's something we have around our school, and all the staff members have a specific matrix in their classroom that they review the students. Again, PBIS is really teaching the expected behaviors, and sometimes we assume with students, you know how to enter a classroom, you know how to walk in the halls. Yes, they do. But it's just nice to reestablish that with our students, just say, this is my expectation, this is what I need from you, and then to review that with all of our kids. We talk about the relationships. They're simple, they're positive messages, but yet we also say, keep your hands and feet to yourself. Don't touch others. And so that sometimes with middle school, it's sometimes kind of hard to deal with. Clean up after yourself in the lunchroom. Pick up after yourself. Let's respect our school and respect ourselves. So that's something that we have placed throughout the building. We have in our hallways, in our commons, in the classroom, and just understanding the expectations. Monday during advisory, we have what Ted had mentioned, social emotional lessons. And so we really focus on the development process of each grade level and how to meet those needs. Recently we just started something kind of fun. We're still teaching the kids on, but we actually started kind of just a mindful moment. And so at the beginning, after we have the announcements, we've said the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a pause, and then for 1 minute, we tell the students, okay, let's get in the mindset of school. And so we actually play some really calming, peaceful music. And the kids are getting used to that, but it's just really getting back into that mindset of school. We've been through a full weekend, we're getting back into the school zone. So the students are learning how to kind of take a pause. And I think that's important, especially in our world today, that we move so quickly and we move so fast. So sometimes taking that 1 minute pause has been quite interesting. We've just done it for 2 Mondays.
Those have been, knock on wood, 2 of our best Mondays of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to jinx it.
No, we don't want to jinx it. But we're just really excited because it's kind of funny watching the kids giggle because they're just not sure what to do. When you have this calming music that comes over, the announcements, we get on the page system and we just say, okay, we are going to take a deep breath. We're going to put behind what the weekend was like. We're going to get our mind set on school, and we're going to just listen for 1 minute. And so some kids will be walking down the halls. You'll see them breathing and taking some deep breaths. Or I was in a classroom today, Mrs. Fisher's 8th grade classroom, and so they're all looking at me like, what did I do? But we just played the music, and they just sat there with their eyes closed. And so it's just really a time to just gather your thoughts, get back on track, and I think it would be good for everybody to do that. The teachers really have enjoyed that as well. So we just started doing that the last 2 weeks. We've done it on Mondays. Another thing that we've been working on this year is Mrs. Fox actually meets with all of the 6th graders, and she has just an overview of just our 3 R's, as well as focusing on some little activities, and it really focuses on how to manage your emotions. And so we focus on, if you remember Inside Out, that's the movie with the little anger and some of those. She really focuses on how do we handle our emotions and what can we do to deal with our emotions and how we're feeling. At the middle school level, there's a lot of emotions, and we're going through a lot of puberty and just hormones and everything. So I think this is a really good time to help students work on understanding how to manage their emotions. And then the other one is our 3 R's.
Yep.
Site.
So this is the website that teachers utilize. As you can see in the very light gray is the different grade levels. And so on this website, our teachers utilize it as kind of their curriculum for the 3 R's. And so, like we mentioned again, on every Monday during advisory or their Jumpstart period, teachers have curriculum that has been designed by our counselors and our social workers and our behavior interventionists to teach those skills of respect, responsibility, and positive relationships. And so as you go into the website, which is also on our school website, you can access all the different lessons and, again, our matrix here. So if we go into 6th grade, you can see that during the week of September, here are some of the topics that were discussed. 6th grade just finished up their growth mindset activity, where students were learning about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, and how we can continually be learners every single day. We're going to have ups and downs, but it's really the mindset and the mental attitude that's important. As you can see, it goes through the year, and we're updating this and changing and tweaking as we see things that are popping up, like different topics that we need to address. We address that during our PBS time with our advisories. And that leads us to kind of the end of October here, coming up on October 23rd. I'm sure all of you guys know what that day is, right? Unity Day. All right, so Unity Day, October 23rd, is a day where the middle school and schools across the country stand together against and unite against bullying. And really the message is to accept kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. And so that week, actually, students will be watching a couple of videos on Unity Day on Monday. Tuesday, they're going to have a pretty cool activity, a chain link activity, where we're going to link everyone's ideas together in the whole entire school. Chantel doesn't know this, but she's going to be the one stapling them all together. But we're going to have that in our cafeteria, our commons area, and then we're all going to get up and wear our Chicago Bears jerseys in orange, or any type of orange, and to stand up and take a stand against bullying. And really the message is to be united and to accept others and to be inclusive. And so, as you can see, we have the PBIS, the social emotional learning, and our tiered systems of support really wrapped together into what we have at the middle school as a building culture.
And so we encourage you to wear orange on October 23rd.
I wrote it down.
There you go. See?
It's not going to be a bear shirt.
No.
I can borrow it anyway.
He's going to wear his Home Depot shirt.
There
Yeah.
you go.
One more thing before we forget. Another part of our PBS model is obviously positive behavior, right? So we are focusing on the positive. So when students are doing the right thing, they're sticking out, and so we are celebrating their positive behavior in the school, in the classroom, in the hallways, during lunch, during free play, after school, on the bus. And so we have a couple hundred of these postcards that we've just ordered a brand new stack of them. And so teachers are filling these out sometimes during the end of a staff meeting. We'll have teachers filling these out. We have every student's name and address label. So we make sure that we're going to hit every single kid at least once, hopefully a couple times this year. They will receive a postcard of a Bulldog Pride in the 3 R's, and then the teachers fill it out. Hey, great job on that math test, or hey, I saw you help that student pick up garbage. It wasn't yours in the lunchroom. Way to go! That's showing Bulldog Pride, and we want to really focus on that positivity.
So just to come in, I like that, because I was sitting here thinking, how do you catch there's
how do we get
there's
everybody?
a group of kids that you're always going to catch them,
Yep.
and there's a group you're going to have to work to catch doing something good.
Yep.
So your sticker method.
Yeah, so we
label
have
method.
a grade level. Each grade level has a stack of labels, and so as they're disappearing, we're finding those kids and hunt them down.
Put
Yep.
some homework in to catch
Yep.
them doing it right.
Yep,
So,
and hopefully we can
awesome.
catch them before the end of the year.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I have like 100 questions here. I don't want to take everybody's all night, but
Okay.
this is great stuff. So I really want to applaud you for what you're doing. I heard a lot of classroom level signs everywhere, but it's that personal catch them doing it right. And in my line of work, we call it PIC-NIC, positive immediate certain feedback, or negative immediate certain feedback at a individual contact level is the absolute best way to change performance. And so that you're taking the positive, which is the better way, of course, but it's that positive immediate, catch them doing it, and it's certain. They know if they're doing a good if they know they're going to do right, they're going to get recognized. So is there plenty of the individual contact as you're doing this?
I think, if you come to our school, I think you see that's one thing that we build middle school on is relationships and connections. And so really focusing on what they're doing well and acknowledging that. Just like you said, the positive part as well as sometimes we have the negative part. I mean, it's not like it's not there. So I think it's really focusing on the immediate and helping them understand. I think that's the biggest part of it is, okay, tell me what's going on. Tell me why that happened, how can I help you, kind of plan of action, as well as if you do something really well, gosh, I really liked how you did that. Even as simple as, thanks for picking up the garbage that's at the table. I really appreciate that. So really giving that individual, and I think that's something too, when you receive the Bulldog Pride tickets, we really focus on the individual, like, don't be generic about it, really give them the specific thing about what they did well. So, and I think teachers do that quite often just in the classroom setting too.
Are you guys doing any behavior analysis at the systematic level such that, so you covered my curiosity, that you catching the individual, right, but is there maybe a behavior that 40% of the students are exhibiting that you'd like to go find the drivers for, and so in those cases, there's some driver or something behind that that's reinforcing them whether we want it to or not. How do we do that systematically for larger groups of students? Is that something?
So when we are tracking behavior like office referrals, so we track where it's happened, when it's happened, the time, obviously, and so we can take that data and then break it down. Okay, what type of behavior? Was it refusal? Was it disrespect? Was it disruption? Was it whatever it was? We can then break it down and say, hey, during lunch, look, it's 8th grade lunch. It's at 12 o'clock. That's 8th grade lunch. We have disrespect in the hallway behind the cafeteria. Okay, that's my new spot for the next month. And so we were able to use that information and target those individuals or groups or larger groups and to negate that behavior, and then find those students and then teach them and ask them and help them understand why this is unacceptable or if it is acceptable in a positive case.
As well as one of the other things that we really promote is take a stand. When you talk about take a stand for kindness as well as standing up, don't be a bystander. Be someone that takes a step in and says something, even when you're at the table. Like I always lunchroom's always interesting. And so when you're, it's really fast because come to a middle school lunch and they're done in like 10 minutes, or 10 seconds. But really you look at that and having the students at the table, if someone leaves all their stuff there, having the other students say, hey, no, that's not okay, come back, take pride in our school, take pride in who we are in our building. So I think that's, and if you walk, as you've been in our building, I think students have taken pride. We receive several compliments about how clean our building is and how well kept it is. So I think that's, just even having the pride of that part.
So two last, sorry for monopolizing the time here. How do we prevent culture shock when they leave your building and go to high school?
Well, good luck. No, as
long as I'm coming into your building to talk about these same things. I mean, you talk about these types of programs. I think when it's I think we have to widely recognize that, say this in this way, but it seems to me that we've had discussions before about where the middle school is in rankings of, middle schools around.
You were where I was going.
Comparatively, and, what are the things that are having that kind of an impact that it's a top performing school?
So,
and, either is this something that should be wider used throughout the district, including the high school? Or is this something that helps them take the next step into the high school would be the other thing? I just don't know.
I think, I think working alongside the administration and working together, I know the PBIS format is looked at and used in other buildings. I think in our building we started in 2009 and we've continually evolved over the years because of where we're at and how the world has evolved, and with everything, with technology and how we've advanced. I think we do prepare them for high school in that process. High school is a whole different ballgame just with the makeup of the students, I think, and where that socially, emotionally, at their levels, it's a little bit different than the middle school. But I think it's just, I don't know, I think working together, working alongside each other. We talk a lot about the matrix, and my expectation is that I follow the matrix just as much as the other students, with the students following the matrix. That's our expectation. So I think that's just something that is constant communication and collaboration.
And that is something we focus on. It's, there has been gaps in their core buildings. There have been gaps in some of these things like that, and like PBIS or this district-wide initiatives. And that's something that we're working on in our administrative meetings, and individually myself with the administrators when I meet with them individually, is working on those things. High school's got some other areas that we're trying to work on first, but we're trying to get the intermediate to be along, because the primary has similar programming. The middle schools had this programming for some time. The intermediate has not, but that is something that they've already started and trying to grasp onto.
So trying to close that gap?
Yeah, because it goes on, off, on,
Right.
or it has, and we're trying to go on all the way.
So your notes say this started in 2009, 2010 timeframe, which I wasn't aware of. So, I mean, he and I are kind of the data nerds when we see this, engineers, so we see data and we're like, you got to analyze. For years we've been going, okay, middle school, you track a class through, they hit high school, boom, you may as well figure out 10 to 15% drop in performance. And we've been asking that question. I think this explains a lot of it. I think this positive reinforcement goes a long ways, whether people like to believe it or not. And the things we've heard is, well, middle school pushes testing a lot harder. We've heard that from other parents, and it's like, no, I think this is a lot of it. So I'm glad to hear this. Thank you very much.
And I think you started your presentation with kind of that consistency thing. If we're all talking the same way and encouraging that same behavior, I mean, that has a positive flow, positive influence. I think there's some things that you can even take to the next level, because I look at your high school, your middle school website, and it's hard to find what you're talking about, and to kind of celebrate those to another level. I think that's one of the reasons that we ask for these types of presentations that come in front of the school board, is so that we can try to figure out these positive things that are happening and encourage the next steps with them.
And positively reinforce it with you guys.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, just having somebody come from the intermediate school to the middle school, it's honestly night and day difference watching my own kid actually seem to enjoy school again. So,
Well, it is, like you said, it's hard to find. We got a lot of stuff jam-packed. Like every website, we're trying to get as much information out there as possible. But it is right down here in the 3 R's right there, which is that website. So parents can look and see what we're teaching their kids during this time and reiterate it at home as well.
You mentioned the book study that your team is doing together.
Yep.
What was that book again? I'm trying to find it here.
Fostering resilient learners.
Okay.
And it's really focusing on how to provide strategies and tools, and I can get a book for everybody.
Quick read.
It's a very easy
100
read.
pages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very
Your thing about pausing, there's a concept called white space, and there's, I think it's even called whitespace.com, that fits in with that, so.
Well, and I'm a true believer in, I know students love to listen to music, but sometimes listening to the music distracts them more than helps them. And it really needs to be a type of music that you're listening to, and so teaching them, I think that's a positive way of it.
Not calming?
So I think helping them, expose them to different types of music, because like today's music that I played for them, I actually said this music is concentration. I mean, literally, it was called concentration. So once they get used to this process, again, we're teaching that behavior, and so we're trying to help understand, expose them a little bit. Now, in one of our new 3 R's advisory lesson, we're going to talk about that mindful moment. So we've exposed them a little bit. Now we're going to go back and teach a little bit, and then we're coming back every Monday. We're going to be consistent in doing this. I'm going into different classrooms, and I'm going to be doing this in the classroom so the kids can watch me hold my cell phone up to the notes. But I think it's really important for them to help teach them that when you're listening to music, doesn't necessarily have to be the words, because that can be a distractant. There's other music that, like you talked about, that white noise, it really helps them focus and concentrate.
And I guess what I'm talking about is it's white space, and it's again, it's a business excellence book. So I mean, to me, taking some of the pieces from business practices that are recognized as increasing performance makes sense. I think I'd like to encourage you to keep exploring those things and keep looking for them.
I'll give you one just for your own research. I would not recommend it for a book study because it's kind of deep. Aubrey Daniels is the father of this kind of movement in the industrial world, not the academic world. Wrote a book called Bringing Out the Best in People, and it followed his positive, immediate, certain, and different behavior analysis and immediate feedback and all that. It's a very good book. It's a little bit academic for a book study, but it's worthwhile.
Worth a read. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Chantel and Ted.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And so now we're to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, and the first thing on there is to thank you to the middle school, Chantel and Ted. Like I said earlier when I was talking, we've had some of the stuff in the executive committee meetings, and I have individual meetings with principals as well, just trying to make sure we align some of that stuff, because there are some gaps in some of what I have viewed so far as great programming, and we want to make sure if it's great, why not use it and adjust it as needed at different age levels. But thank them for coming out. The second thing is not on here because it came up after I sent this, but I just want to congratulate the girls tennis team that qualified for the state tournament as a team, and then also Elena Lindquist and Julia Bankston qualified for doubles by getting second place in their section. So that's first time any tennis team from Becker's gone to state. So that's a great accomplishment for them.
Team Nate Booker?
Yes. Yep. Okay. And I actually called them after I found out, but they were still playing, so they must have played really well. So well that they already had clinched it before they were even done with their matches. So that's great. The pre-K through 12 October 1 enrollment for the district is 2943, that's a typo, in comparison to 2951 last year. These numbers change a little bit during the year, but this is October 1st, and you can see the data from the last 15 years that I could kind of dig up as far as October 1st enrollment and where that's going, but it's kind of hit a plateau with 2951 last year, 2943 or so this year.
So in the I, that's the typo, not.
Yeah, on the top. 2922 was my number before. I had the 21 from early
Okay.
childhood on there.
How does school readiness and stuff play? Because
So the early childhood, we don't receive funding for the school readiness programming, but the early one, where it's early, is early childhood special ed. We do receive some funding for them, but they're not typically enrolled all day long, so we don't get, it's not like we get a 1.0 for them, we get partial for them, for those students, and so that's how it counts into that count, because we count them as students.
Okay.
But the funding is a little bit different than that.
I was gonna say, this is not necessarily the actual number of students, but it's the ADM that,
Yep.
the multipliers and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
Any explanation for the down?
No, just kind of hit the number. I think we'll see increases in that, partly from the early childhood special ed. There was a larger group that went through, I don't know if it's last year or this year. There were some larger groups that had graduated, but our biggest group right now is in the kindergarten, and so that's kind of replacing that, I think.
Saw some stuff on home prices that they've actually dropped in the area for the first time in a while too, from earlier this year to the start of the school year. So wait and see.
This is informational number 3, and speaking with the Becker Education Association, we'd like to have meet and confer, and I don't know if school board members have been a part of that in the past, but I would like 1 or 2 people, and it can be a rotation, and we can talk about it after the meeting or some other time, but we'd like to have 1 or 2 board members on that. It's a meeting, have you guys had meet and confer before? Okay. And it's required to have at least 3 times a year, and so we'd like to have one sometime soon, but we can set up.
So we've had it. I only recall ever having 1 meeting, because the other 2 times
There wasn't anything.
Wasn't anything to discuss.
Which is
so
fine, you can forego it if that's the case,
Yeah.
but,
But we have had it in the past.
okay.
And just, like I said, in all of in 8, 9 years now, we've had like 1 meeting. One time they wanted to meet, and that was it.
Sure. Yeah, and that's typical, especially if you have good communication between us. I mean, it shouldn't be something you just wait until the next meeting in 2 months to bring up, if it's something that can be taken care of before that, so.
Right.
But yeah, and the BEA wouldn't meeting right before school board meetings, so then it wouldn't be a hassle or distraction to you guys having to come in if you were part
I'd
of it.
like to be part of that.
The website is live with information related to our upcoming operating levy renewal. There will be public presentations in the Performing Arts Center on October 21st, Monday, October 21st, and Tuesday, October 29th at 6 p.m. There was an article in the newspaper this last week. There'll continue to be articles in the newspaper. Mailings hopefully will go out later this week as far as notification and information in informative mailer. And those will continue to be updated on the website and social media accounts. If you have any questions, or if anyone comes to you with questions, I've gotten a couple emails from some of you about different things, but if you have anything like that, feel free to send them my way. If you're not comfortable answering, I did give you guys a flyer that is on the website, just an informational piece of paper, but it's on a PDF on the website if you want to see it there too. But and then voting will take place at Becker City Hall, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on November 5th. Absentee voting has already begun, so that option is available as well.
The absentee ballots get mailed back to us here at the school, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And just for everybody's knowledge, I did stop in at the Sherburne County Government Center and the auditor there. They do have a school referendum, but it's for Elk River. So so that people don't get confused, they can't go, you know, if they want to, they have to come here, but Elk River's got one going on, so it's at the Sherburne County, so just, so people are aware of that. You know, so they, hopefully they don't get frustrated. But the Sherburne County auditor knows to send them up to our office.
Any questions on anything else?
Okay, so that brings us to committee reports, and the track committee held a meeting.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
honey. You had the question about meet and confer. I said I'd be part of that. Is usually two
One or
people.
two, yeah.
Are we going to discuss that now
We can do it
or
at the end
after?
too, if we want. But if we want to do it now, it doesn't matter to me. And it can be a rotation, or it can be solid group.
I'm guessing, being that my wife is a teacher, I have to abstain.
Well, there's no decisions at meet and confer though. It's just it's an
Informational,
outlet.
yeah.
It's information. It's not a decision-making thing. So I don't see any reason why you would necessarily have to.
If you're gonna schedule them on the nights of school board meetings like you're proposing, I can support. I can come early.
Yeah, I think I was part of that last time too, but we canceled. Our meeting didn't happen, so,
And that is typical. That's
yeah,
not-
so I'd be part of that too.
Just can't have more than 3.
No, unless we want to rotate.
We can roll.
Right.
Well, I'm
I think we
fine with rotating.
I think we rotated. I mean, none of us were scheduled on the same night.
Okay.
It was just, each
Right.
one of us had a meeting.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, so committee reports, track committee held a meeting on September 10th. So what was discussed at the track meeting were upcoming events. So November 18th coming up, Dr. Robert Ziggy from St. Cloud is coming as a speaker. And then September 12th, there was a Love Them First, I think that was Care 11, which would have already happened. And then Monday and Tuesday, the 16th and 17th, so these are all kind of past events here with Claire's house also. November 12th is the mental health fair from 5:30 to 6:30. And then we also discussed we have those cards that we've been handing out, or we had been handing out for years to like the bus drivers, the parents and community members and so on. So we are looking at possibly making those a little more user-friendly and not so many bullet points on one card, maybe having 2, and where you pick one and then pass it on. Some really good ideas with those cards to reach kids in a different way, but yet using that same concept. And so that was very, I thought that some great ideas were coming out. So now there's a subcommittee going through and finding those, bullet points to put on those cards, and they're going to come back to the next track meeting and let us know what they come up with.
Question on November 12th, the mental health fair, did that get rescheduled? Because I thought the mental health fair was on the 5th, same day that the speaker that Dylan's Hope is sponsoring.
I'm wondering if it was rescheduled for, is it the 5th?
Because there was
Isn't that election day?
well, there was talk that we were going to have to for election night, but being that Dylan's Hope is sponsoring the event and not the school, that there was no, we could still have the event at the school.
Jeremy, do you recall if it's the 12th or the 5th?
I don't have that date. I could look
That's
at
what
it.
I got from
I have November
from
12th as the
from
next meeting.
principal.
Oh, at the next meeting, maybe that's where I'm mixed up here.
Yeah, that's the next
So
track meeting.
November
is-
5th is the
So
mental
I
health
think that,
fair?
I mean, there's no voting, actual voting here.
Right.
Right.
So,
But they were worried, since it was election night, that there couldn't be any after-school activities and stuff like that, and then they checked and So I just wanted to make sure our dates were right. I was.
The fifth, is it the fifth?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I apologize, it's the
No,
fifth.
no
Yeah,
worries.
the 12th is the next track meeting.
Track
is what I-
meeting, okay. I apologize. And so that was the track committee. All right, so now we are at number 3, the consent agenda.
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Jason, a
Can
second from Ryan. Are there any
I
questions?
asked to have F pulled off just for discussion. That's the fundraising.
Okay.
That's the only one. The other ones are fine.
All right, so do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with F removed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
All right, just administratively, and it's hard to read this, because what it's going to is cut off.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to follow through, and it kind of sticks, it actually stuck out to me a bunch when I got to that second piece, that and the dance team on here for like, I don't know, it just keeps hitting dance team, dance team, dance team, dance team. And I don't know if that's, maybe they're smaller fundraisers and there's just more of them. I don't know, but that's the one that stuck out at me. You know, good on them, I guess, for putting that number of fundraisers together. I mean, my daughter's on the dance team, so I know that they do, I mean, it costs a good amount of money for a lot of these events and that kind of stuff. It just, yeah, that was the one that stuck out for me. Are we, I mean, I'm not even sure that we fund anything for them. Maybe they're doing all of their costs are through fundraising?
Yeah, and I think they do a lot of smaller ones, like the concession stands and things like that. Make them a little bit smaller type of fundraisers instead of one large fundraiser. They also get, you know, doing some of the, like the sponsors locally,
Well,
and the grocery bagging and things like that. They don't generate a lot of revenue from each of those, but cumulatively they're able to do that.
You know, our policy requires all of this with regard to notification. I see other booster organizations, that kind of stuff doing, I mean, what I'm asking is, it feels like there's some groups that are more or less playing by the rules and making sure that all these notifications are in for every little thing that they're doing fundraising for, and there's other groups that maybe aren't doing all the notifications that they're supposed to. What I hear often from parents and others is, why are we doing another fundraiser, you know, and it's those types of things. That's why I guess I wanted to just talk through it some and try to figure out if there's, you know, what's going on with some of these groups and not others, that we're, you know, have a lot of fundraisers for some groups, and maybe others are doing fundraisers, but they're not really on the list here.
Sure.
Because you know, it's not, dance team is actually not one that I hear, why is the dance team doing another one? But I see them on a lot of these, but I hear other groups, why is this group doing another one, this group doing another one, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know the answer to that, I just wanted to voice that so that we're all kind of hearing the same things. That was really, again, all I wanted to propose discussion.
Yeah, one of the things that we are going to do is take the ones that are annually, like, so if the middle school does a fundraiser, I'm picking on them because they're here, but the middle school does a fundraiser every single year, and we've approved it for the last 15 years or whatever. I would like to have those separate, and then see who else is left over, because if it's something, that's what we've done in the past at other schools I've worked in, is get the ones that are annually, they're not surprises, they're not
Right.
anything new. The ones that are missing were the tough ones, because sometimes fundraisers come up that let's say a team goes to a special event or something like that, and they don't find out until December, and we've already approved these, that's where some of those sneak in, and we brought those to the board separately. People weren't really on top of things enough, or sometimes they're really quick. There's sometimes a quick turnaround. They need to raise money for this because.
I would just say, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand that they need to come to the school board to ask permission to do fundraisers.
And they get multiple reminders.
Yeah, but anyway.
So my follow-up to that is so let's say after, let's say, Mark, you find out that there's somebody that isn't playing by the rules. What happens? I mean, they're in violation of policy 511. Is it, oops, sorry, or is it they lose all their funding? I mean, it's one thing to have a policy, but if we have a policy just so that they are playing by the rules and there's no consequences, what's the point of a policy then?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
I don't think there are any consequences for not reporting.
There really hasn't been in the past, and that's some of the things I'm asking about. On the other side of that, too, I know that a lot of organizations, they do concession stands at the football games or basketball games or that kind of stuff, and everybody asks the question, where did, that money go to? And I'm not sure that we have full accountability of the money that's being raised. And that's really the purpose of them coming to the board to ask permission to do these fundraisers, is they have some accountability. That's, I guess, Jeremy, if you can for us, look into this a little bit more, and I think it's Fund 15 or whatever, there's some fund that is assigned to for this fundraising and that goes to the organizations, what's the accountability of that?
Yeah. Those are all good questions, and they're legitimate questions, I think, too. And one of the things financially is, those are at least, these ones are looked at pretty closely, because there's a lot of cash involved in some of these and different things like that, so they are looked at much more closely than other areas.
And I think if you ask, there is visibility, but you have to ask, and I think there should be a report that comes out maybe semi-annually about what's in those funds for each of those sports. And that should be accountable to from each sport, and it should be posted in one of our meetings,
Like how much are they raising
and how much is in, what is the inflow, outflow.
Sure.
Right, because, I mean, one of the dance team things I see is it does concession stands on here, right? Well, soccer I know does concessions, swimming does concessions.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Where's the rest of them?
It's exactly right, and I think this discussion.
That's why I say it feels like there's some playing by the rules and some maybe not.
Yeah, and maybe the clarification needs to be what constitutes a fundraiser, or what, I mean, is it, they just assume that money's, we're working a concession stand and we ask for money and it's there, and then we don't complain, so that'll be a big part of it.
I think with that, I move the approval.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to accept item F.
Second.
And we have a second with Lori. Any more questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, now we're down to number 4, adopt policy 522, I don't have it in front of me. 223, sorry. So last week we had the reading for the strategic goals for the school board. Did anybody have any questions on the strategic goals?
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mark, a second from Jason. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. And now we are down to number 5, the first readings of 414, mandated reporting, and 524 internet acceptable use and safety. Did you want to speak on those?
Yeah, they're non-substantive changes. The first policy, 414, adds the word care in 2 spots, I believe. Healthcare and medical care. Health and medical were already there. And then somebody who is currently or recently in a position of authority is added instead of just a position of authority. And that was added. And then solicitation of children to engage in sexual conduct and communication of sexually explicit materials to children obviously is prohibited, and that wording was added into there for more clarity. And then for internet use, there was one section that was changed, which added some different forms of social media, but nothing, again, not substantive changes.
Are there any questions?
It's pretty straightforward stuff. I'd be disappointed if we didn't have some of this stuff when I was reading it.
And I'm not sure why they added Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Reddit, and then put at the end, and similar websites or applications. Took off the other one that was on there, MySpace or whatever.
Because they, wanted to appear modern, relevant.
So by the time we approve this in 6 months, they're probably all going to be outdated again.
All right, so then these will come back next month? All right. If there's no questions, we're down to item 6.
Just as part of this policy, or the implementation of this policy, do we block that stuff?
The students are unable to get to as many of those as we can. We try to stay ahead of all of that, and they're good at trying to figure out ways to get things. I think on our school devices anyway, they have their phones and things like that, and it's a little easier for them to access that through those, because we can't block it unless they're using the internet. But in talking to Jason Horstrom, that's something that they try to stay ahead of, and kids figure out things. They're very good at that. And I know my personal kids complain because their phones don't even work in here. So.
All right, any other questions? If there's none, we can move to the 2019-20 superintendent goals.
Okay, for these, I said I was going to have these in November, a little bit ahead of schedule, so I was hoping I could get some feedback or some information on these. But using the school district goals 1 and 2, so that the NWEA and MCA scores with the Z scores with those, the long-term facility plan from the school district, school board as well. Obviously goals 1 and 2, and then number 3 was one that I feel is important, and I'd like to have as a goal, is develop a communication plan that outlines and identifies promotional opportunities for Becker School District. Informational or promotional, but identifying where we get the best reach, and then being able to utilize that so we can best inform our school district of whatever it is we want to inform them of. And coming up with some type of plan for that was the one I had it. Did you?
Only because I can't.
Is the format bad for you?
No.
Because it was, and we fixed it, right?
The reach word is bugging me. Just I know it's nitpicky engineering, but anytime we set a goal, you want to be as smart goals, and so having something. What does reach mean? Are you looking reach? Do you mean by like effectiveness? You're looking for the effectiveness of each media, or That's all I was,
oh,
I'm nitpicking, so you asked for feedback.
Yeah, reach, yeah, in the quotes.
Yeah. You're just looking for the effectiveness of each media?
The number that.
Okay.
Like if we would do a survey to gather this information, where do you get the information on Becker School District?
Okay.
Newspaper, social media, whatever, Twitter, whatever, website, those type of things would be.
No, I understand what you're.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know what, that's why I put it.
Well, you had to explain it to me, so no, it's fine.
Well, I'm trying to follow, is there some meaning to maybe they came from somewhere else, I don't know, but where it has a B in front of the organizational management, the F and the G?
Oh, yep, those come from that Minnesota Rule 3512 statute, 3512.0510, and that's what Dr. Malone had for his goals. Those are the superintendent competencies, or administrative competencies, actually. And so that's where I pulled those from, and how it relates to my job and my competencies.
Okay. Maybe he hid those from us before, because I don't ever remember seeing that.
Well, I copied the first two from him.
Yeah.
The first one I think I did, the second one then the third one I found, so.
I'm just, that's fine, I was trying to follow, because those look like different things.
And I put, yeah, because I suppose because I left the B's and the numbers and letters right from the statute, and he didn't have that on the one that I copied, the instructional management one.
I mean, my initial feedback would be that they look like they're reasonable. I'm a little bit, in the measures are, Jason talks about as, being engineer types that look for the measures. So I think we see the Z-score measures on that first one. Report the programs which have been developed through the district.
That's a go, no-go, you're either gonna do it or you're not.
Yeah.
So it's
And did you intend that was a go or no-go, or is there some actual measure that we can put on that to say we partially accomplished this or something, or we're making progress toward?
No, I think we have to have, the goal is to have a plan in place. Now, whether that plan changes in a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever, that there's a multi-year plan in place for that, and that's the same with goal number 3. There's a plan in place, so if we need to contact parents, or if we need to contact community leaders, what's the best way to reach them, or what's the best way to reach, the taxpayer group, or whatever groups we decide to look at.
And just things that pop into my mind are the numbers around that. So like when you say at least 4 meetings, I'm like, okay, I can get my wrap my head around, did we accomplish 2, 3, 4, that gives me some progress towards.
Sure.
That's what we're always looking for, because otherwise you're just waiting for the end, right? But we want to see progress towards, so maybe you have something in the middle to be able to show us making progress towards these things.
Sure.
Rather than just wait until the end and say, yes, we did it or we didn't do it. It's like, when you can see a progress towards, you can understand that you have some momentum to get you there, is what I would say. That's what I tend to use metrics for, is understanding, are we moving in the right direction?
Would something like where we're gathering the information by this date?
Yeah, where are we in
phases.
Yeah.
Break it out in phases, what are you gonna do by when?
Well,
A few milestones.
A lot of times the new project management, we have what we call WBS, which is the work breakdown structure. It breaks it down into smaller pieces, so I can see, yes, the plan is in place, yes, the personnel have been hired, yes, those types of things that I can see the steps and progress towards meeting the goal. Mine's doing the same thing that you did earlier about jumping off the network.
I've used WBS numbers for years, I never knew what it stood for.
Work breakdown structure?
I just never heard the acronym, what it meant.
Things you learn.
I just refer to it as pocketbooks, that's where I go for money.
So any other feedback for Jeremy. Okay. All right, well, we're down to number 7. The meeting is adjourned at 7:32.